This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to cover off the 4 virtues of Stoicism. So you would have definitely heard me talk a fair bit about Stoicism. It's probably a philosophy that I came across a good 18 to 24 months ago, probably at a time where I was looking for more self-discipline, and I was probably looking for a way to figure out to create some sort of order to my chaos. I actually can't really remember. I mean, I probably can exactly how I came across it. Probably by following someone like Tim Ferriss, and probably coming across seeing something about the obstacle is the way, and from there it kind of unraveled, and I've done a hell of a lot of study into exactly what Stoicism is, and looking forward to learning more and more about it. But one of the key areas of it is the 4 virtues of Stoicism, right? So there's many facets to Stoicism, and great philosophers that such as Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and even Zeno, the guy that created Stoicism. These guys are fantastic philosophers and really pull apart what it is to be fair and just, both taking awareness to the level of, and especially back in the day where science and understanding of psychology was just not there. It's quite phenomenal to think that these values and philosophy came forth, but it was understanding to take control of what you could control and to let go of what you couldn't, right? And that's something that a lot of us are still struggling with today, let alone 2,000 years ago. So the 4 virtues of Stoicism, I'm going to talk through these 4. I'm going to give you a quick little snippet of the importance of it, how to view it, and then how to utilize it as best you can, at least something to consider anyway, and then go from there. So the first one is wisdom. Wisdom, and I think wisdom and knowledge, it doesn't say knowledge, right? And knowledge is different. A lot of people know stuff, but they're not very wise. Maybe they're not very, they don't trust themselves, they don't trust their gut. And I think the whole key with wisdom is that you can read as many books as you want, but if you don't have experience of doing said thing, then the wisdom is almost a little bit redundant. It's sort of like if you had someone who's just finished their degree and they're about to do brain surgery, compared to the brain surgeon that's done the same degree but 1,000 surgeries, you probably want to go with the person that's done 1,000 surgeries. And the reason being is that the person has that experience. And so this is why it's so crucial to think macro, act micro, right? Because when you're acting micro but thinking macro, you stay in the game for a long time. You gain experience, therefore you gain wisdom. And the strongest, the highest level of wisdom is actually self-knowledge, right? It's self-mastery and the pursuit of that. So you will continually hear me talk about pulling yourself apart, excavating your own mind and soul. And when you're able to do this and sort of see yourself and see the reasons why, the real reasons, not the reasons you tell yourself, the reason behind the reason, why you do what you do, you say what you say, you react the way you react, like that in itself is wisdom, because you're like, man, I'm still learning, I'm still unfolding, I'm still unraveling, everyone else must be as well. And the wisdom from there is not to give advice, but to know when to let people learn their own lessons. And so the wisdom is something that I believe we should continually pursue, and definitely from a personal, individual standpoint. The second is courage. So after wisdom, it goes courage. And courage is, I actually mentioned this, I think, on somewhat in my podcast yesterday, which was the ability to move towards the unknown. And your ability to move towards the unknown can be quite courageous. And we see it in acts of people like running back into burning buildings to save children or something. It's like, oh, it's really courageous. It's sort of like, it is. I think that's the example of it, though, is that it's moving towards the unknown. And this is why I say it's quite courageous to, even though it's not the unknown, it's the unconscious. It's courageous to excavate yourself, because you're moving towards something that is chaotic and unknown, right? And it's in the unconscious for a reason, because it's somewhat scary, right? It's hurt you in the past. You try and protect yourself from it, etc., etc. And so it's understanding that we develop courage when we continually move towards things that are difficult, unknown, or unknowable. And we need to have some sort of level of wisdom to know that we need to be able to stretch just past our current space. We can't go, go so deep in that we drown, because we can have so much damage from that we never do anything ever again. So it's learning to go just that little bit further than where you are today. It sounds so cliche, but there's a reason why it's a cliche, because it's fucking true. And so it's crucial to be able to just push that little bit extra, that little bit extra, that little bit extra. And you measure that over a year, right? And then you measure that year over 10 years. And it's like, play the long game. Play the long game. Be courageous. And the last thing I want to mention about courage is actually understanding what the opposite of courage is. And the opposite of courage isn't cowardice. The opposite of courage is conformity. So think about that for a little while. The third one is justice. Justice. What is fair, right? And this is quite crucial, because fair could be somewhat subjective. What is fair 100 years ago may not be fair in 100 years' time. But I think the crucial part of looking at fairness is being fair with how you treat yourself. And once you're fair with how you treat yourself, you can be fair with how you treat other people, because we truly do treat other people how we treat ourselves. Maybe not on a conscious level, but definitely on some sort of subconscious level. And the key thing here is, like, you can only love someone up to the level that they love themselves, right? And the reason why self-love becomes so crucial is because when we allow ourselves to love ourselves as who we are and where we are at in our lives, and just accept that, we start to accept it in other people. And that's really crucial, because otherwise we live in this conditional space. And fairness is being fair first to the person looking back at you in the mirror, and that'll teach you to be fair to everything else as well. And it's also understanding what's just, right? And a lot of the time, this fairness or justice comes from this ability to develop discipline. And discipline is quite an interesting concept, because if we're trying to develop it, it means we don't have it. We're presupposing the fact if we're trying to do something, it means that we actually don't have it. So rather than trying to do something, you just do it, right? You just put the phone down and you get off your ass and you do the work. Like, it's sort of like, oh, that's easy for you to say, or we try and project it outwards. It's like, actually, technically, that's all we have to do. We just have some sort of understanding that there is more pain associated with not moving towards what's important to you than it is to procrastinate, right? To think the reason why you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve in life had nothing to do with anyone else, had everything to do with the ability to move forward towards the unknown, to be just and fair with yourself, and make sure that you're building wisdom. All of a sudden, you start to see how three of these already start to place themselves together. The last one itself in the four virtues of Stoicism is temperance, right? And think about what I want you to consider with temperance is your ability to be conscious and aware of your emotions and what arises, right? And so think of emotions as emotion that arises within you, and that's a sensation. And then we label the sensation. It's actually just a sensation. Even calling it a sensation is calling it something, but we label the sensation something. And so excitement and anxiousness can actually be very, very similar, if not the same, but we label it differently. And so reframing that can be very powerful. And so being aware of our emotions and when they arise, and realizing that when we're angry, we're allowed to let the anger pass, acknowledge it, acknowledge what made us angry within us, and then addressing that and letting it pass can be extremely powerful. And so this ability to be temperate is the ability to be responsible for your emotions, right? Response able. And this ties into the last thing, which is choose your response rather than reactioning something. A reaction is literally just grabbing something that you've done in the past and just doing it again because you've always reacted that way. So your ability to choose your response allows you to go proactive compared to reactive. And that's something that's so crucial to think about when it comes down to temperance and being able to be responsible for your emotions and not blaming them on someone else. Team, I'm going to wind it up there. There are the four virtues of Stoicism in just under 10 minutes. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're curious, my recommendation to get into Stoicism would probably be either Obstacle is a Way or The Daily Stoic. I think they're pretty good reads to lead into that. Otherwise, if you found this podcast interesting, I would love it if you would share it with somebody else who you also think would find it interesting. Otherwise, until next time, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you guys soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.